biz. Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Jay Graham for What's the Biz 559, and
hey, I'm Darnell Rivera, Life Transformation Coach. Welcome.
Welcome. Yes.
We are really excited about our podcast today. Today's title is Rooted Success, a Landscaper's Legacy, and we are excited to have Anthony Belis. Welcome, Anthony.
Good evening. How are you guys doing today?
Doing really well. Really well.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me, first of all.
Yes, we've been trying to get you on, man, and we appreciate you coming and making time for us. But I just want to share a little bit about Anthony. I had met Anthony about probably 4 years ago. Anthony actually does landscaping at my home. His business does. When we first met, I was fussing about the yard, and he was so great and compassionate, and he just catered to my needs, and he was just great. But over the years, I've really gotten to know him. And when I heard about his story, as you guys know, we here at What's the Biz, we are about community. We are about entrepreneurship. We are about small businesses, big businesses. We want folks out there to know just the beautiful things that are around us. And one of those businesses is Belis Landscaping. So again, welcome.
Again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anthony, tell us about who you are and what you do, man.
Well, it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
My name is Anthony Belis Jr., and I am the owner of Belis Landscape and Maintenance Incorporated. And, we started off really small, in the sense of being small. It was just me and my pop, I didn't wake up one day and then just decide, you know what, like I want to be a landscaper. I want to do maintenance and, anything like that. So I started off doing maintenance, and that's all I really did. But prior to that, I had an underground construction experience. I started at a young age. I was like 19 when I started as a laborer. And
hard work.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of hard work when you do underground construction.
Yeah.
And there was one particular just kind of, I guess, like a life-changing moment for me. I was sitting in a ditch, and the guy who was in charge of me was sitting over me, and he was wanted me to do something that just didn't make any sense. And I'm not saying that I was smarter than the guy or anything like that, but it didn't make any sense. And he made a smart remark to me, which I probably shouldn't say on here. And
no, go ahead, say no.
It's okay. We say bad words once in a while.
So, he's like, you need to hurry the blank up or whatever, and I was just like, man, like you're talking to me just like I'm nobody. And, and I'm trying to do this job. And I think on that day, it was about probably 105 degrees, middle of summer. Oof. And I thought to myself, man, like, I don't want to just do this the rest of my life. Like, I want to make something. I want to be somebody. And I turned around to him. I said, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to be in charge of you. I'm going to be a foreman. And he says, he turned around. He told me, he's like, the day you're a foreman, I'll put in my 2 weeks. Oof. I said, okay. I said, got you. I got you.
Yeah.
And so within 2 years, by the time I was 21, I became a laboring foreman. Within another year, I was a full-blown heavy equipment operator, running crews, doing everything. So I did that up until I was about 29 years old.
Oh, okay.
And, we used to install underground high voltage systems and whatnot. Mm-hmm. We were like, a lot of our subcontract work was for Edison and PG&E and stuff. And so a little bit before I was 29, probably about 24, I was making the company a lot of money. I started opening eyes. All the higher ups are kind of like, whoa, like his profits are like crazy. How is this possible? And so they moved me to do commercial installation stuff. So I took off on the commercial side. And then right about that time in end of 2008, beginning of 2009 is when the economy took that big crash,
Right.
Yeah.
So we went company-wide from roughly about 350 employees down to like 15 to 20 of us.
Oh, wow.
And so right about that time, I kind of went in there and I was just like, hey, like, you guys can lay me off and let me just focus on doing this maintenance stuff. Because 2 years prior to that, my dad was doing maintenance work, right? So my dad, he kind of started off just with maybe like 4 accounts a week, cutting yards. That's all he's doing, maintaining properties. And he told me I have an opportunity to buy this other guy out. Long story short, we bought the guy out. So I would get off of work Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays, and I would work, my regular job. But after I'd get off of work, I'd meet up with him and we'd work till dark.
Wow.
So we did that for about 2 years until that whole crash happened. And then when that whole crash happened, then I went in. I was like, hey, you're working guys who have less time here than me, and I was making too much to not collect unemployment, but not enough to pay my bills. 1 or 2 days a week doesn't cut it,
Right.
So I told him, hey, just lay me off. We'll go our separate ways. And so I started just doing maintenance, kind of like side gig with my dad. We bought this other guy out. He had maybe 15 accounts. I want to say we retained out of those 15, with change and stuff. Some people are like, no, I'll find somebody else, which was cool, So we ended up picking up about 11 or 12 accounts and we worked together. And then, I turn around, and after about a year of doing it, I tried getting a correction. It's like right there at the door, trying to get in, try to get into the sheriff's department, kind of the same thing, right there at the door, final steps. And they were going through their furloughs and all that at the time. So they weren't really hiring.
Yeah.
And I told my dad, I said, you know what, like, I'm going to turn this into something better. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to start hustling. So I would go out, pass my cards out, see places just overgrown and looking ugly. And, and kind of from there, it started to pick up. And I met this guy. So one of our biggest accounts that we do is we work for Equity Group out of Visalia. So we are...
And that's how we met.
Yeah, that's how, yeah. So Equity Group is right now, they're like the largest property management company in Tulare County.
That seems like a good contract, right?
Yeah. It's been good. Yeah. I've been with them since the end of 2010. I started working with the Equity Group, and little by little, they started to say, they want to see what you got, first of all, what kind of service you offer them.
Right.
So it started with, hey, I got 3 properties, put a bid on them. I picked them up. Then we went up to another 10 from them, and so on and so on. So they've been really good to me, and then plus, I guess, just with my work ethic and everything that I kind of learned, it took off with them. And then you pick up private accounts and, left and right. So I did that for a good while. I was probably in my early 30s at the time. And then I thought about it, and I was like, man, like, again, kind of hit me. I'm like, man, I don't want to be out here cutting yards the rest of my life. Like, there's a bigger calling out there,
right? Right.
And so I ended up just continuing to grind. I ended up hiring a guy. Then he turned from part-time to full-time, and then you pick up more work. And so I got another guy part-time, and then he turned full-time. And so probably when I was about 35, maybe, I was like, okay, like, I want to build a maintenance crew, and eventually I want to physically retire from the business. So I'm not having to physically do the work anymore.
Yeah.
And during this whole time, you get people who would call you, hey, can you install a sprinkler system? Hey, can you do sod? And I had never done that line of work before, So I turned around and I ended up saying, yeah, I can do it. I used to install all these big PVC conduit systems for Edison. Yeah. So I kind of self-taught, and everything actually. And it turned into, another job here, another job there, but they were hit and miss. It was never consistent on the landscape installation, construction side of it, the contractor work. So by the time I was just before my 39th birthday, when I was about 38, I had 3 guys running the maintenance side. And at that point, after just doing maintenance, I was like, man, I need to I wanted a break. Yeah. I wanted a break, and still, and it's a whole learning curve when you go from physically doing work to turning around, and now you're like, okay, it's numbers, it's paperwork, it's still hustling.
And then you got to find the right guys in the position that you could trust to run it great.
Which in itself, it is hard to find good help, people you can trust, people who are trustworthy, who have integrity, who are going to go out there and do the job and do it to my standards, which, learning business it's very rare where you find those people. But when you do, you kind of solidify yourself as offering more so like quality work, and, people trust you. It's all about gaining trust at the end of the day. When your clients trust you, then it gives them a sense of ease, and it gives you a sense of ease that you're not going to lose an account over one thing that happens, and there's just so many variables of bad things that can happen. So you got to really maintain yourself in the sense of holding your integrity and, not breaking that trust.
Well, like you said, too, the quality of work, because I think, like, for me, I know I've recommended you, and it's based on your quality of work, and every person that you've done, like when I worked for MCOR, you showed up, and I mean, that is good business because it's quality work. But just going back a little bit, I remember when we first met, I would see you, and then all of a sudden I wouldn't see you anymore. And then I noticed, like, you have evolved not just in landscaping, but you're doing like some whole other innovative stuff out there, right? Can you tell us a little bit about how you transferred? I mean,
well, so I always did installation work, and so like I was saying, when I took that little break, I played a lot of golf.
Good for you.
At that time, I wish I could play as much as I was at that time, But I got bored. And then, I'd pick up a job here and there. And then one job would snowball into another job. And actually, one of my good friends, he wanted me to do some synthetic turf at his house. I'm like, hey, bro, I don't do synthetic turf. Yeah. Like, I don't do it. And he's like, no, come on, man. If you don't do it, then I'm going to tell people you did it, and I'm going to do the job. And if it looks messed up, and I'm like, so we kind of went back and forth,
Right. Yeah.
So I picked up, his house, and then it snowballed from there.
Kind of like word of mouth. Just
word of mouth. Yeah. You do good work, and
gets around.
It spreads, I mean, bad news travels 10 times faster than good news. We all know that.
Absolutely.
But when you do good work, it's that snowball effect where it starts to get more and more. So I started lining jobs up. So now I found myself managing my maintenance side, and then now I'm actually physically working again.
Yeah.
So it evolved into us installing a lot of synthetic turf. I mean, rock, hardscapes, a lot of sprinklers, irrigation, but the whole synthetic turf is kind of like where everybody is starting to go to, like with the water, like the water issues here in California.
The shortages and all that.
And a lot of that. So I thought about it. I was sitting there one day, and I was just like, again, it just kind of hit me. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to go full blown, and I'm going to build another division of our business,
there you go.
And so I started looking into getting my contractor's license. And so I started studying, and I procrastinated for a long time. It's
like most of us.
Yeah. So I procrastinated because, here I am running my maintenance side, managing the maintenance side, dealing with still issues on that side, trying to get that all, to where everything's copacetic.
Right.
And then still now I'm back physically working, me and one guy doing installations, and I mean, I'm doing everything from ordering the material, picking it up, doing the physical work. And so it turned into basically at that point, it was like, okay, like I got to grow this side. I got to let go of the reins a little bit. Let me start looking for people to do the work, because if I want to keep this up, I still got to be available to go and do estimates, to go and, check up on my maintenance crew, and just to keep everything running as smoothly as possible, which it's very difficult. It's doable, but it's not like it's just something that just comes to people or
it's just natural and everything runs smoothly every single day.
Exactly.
Right.
So it turned into that to where, I mean, now with our installation work, it's, I mean, we do everything pretty much, anything that has to do with landscape construction.
And so you jumped into a couple of businesses there, but starting from one business, right? Yeah. And so you were saying that there's a book I read called The E-Myth. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's kind of what you did probably without even knowing. You know what I mean? You started a business, you learned it because you and your father was working it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you learned everything about it, and then you were able to hire people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you know what to hold them accountable for. And you actually surpassed it because you was able to let it go. A lot of people can't let it go. You know what I'm saying?
True.
And then you got to the next job and did the same thing. And one thing I got from that is that you seen a something that people needed, or you didn't want to see it, but they came to you with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed about business is that once you have a trustworthy business and it's in the field, people trust you with other things. Like mine is media.
Right.
So people will ask like, oh, you do this? And I'm like, no, not really. Well, I need somebody that does that. You sure you don't do that? Like, so I understand exactly what you're saying. So it takes you to another place, and then you made the decision to go full blown with it. I think that's really cool to point out to people is that you did that. That's really cool.
And it's almost like you were, I don't know, God, the universe just like sent people into your life to sort of like show, cause growth in you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I think the beautiful part of it is here you have the desire to help your dad and to kind of expand and help him expand that business. So let's talk a little bit more about your dad. Tell us what lessons from your dad you developed, and how did your father's like mentorship contribute to the foundation of your business?
And what age did y'all start working to? What age did you start working with him?
With your dad?
Well, I actually started doing a lot of physical work when I was probably about 10 years old. My dad came down with a rare form of arthritis, right? Called ankylosing spondylitis. It's a crazy name, right? And I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So when my dad was about 31, he had his first hip transplant or hip replacement, right? And so pretty much I was his right hand. Anything that needed to be done around the house. So it went from everything from, I remember when we first moved into my house where my parents still live. I mean, we had all these eucalyptus trees all in the backyard. And he's like, hey, I want you to start helping me dig all these out. So I'd get out there and I'd, dig around these roots and stuff. And there's still roots in the ground. And I remember him telling me, like, if you do it right the first time, you don't got to do it a second. Because he'd send me back out there to go finish digging the roots up.
And this was like at 10 years old?
And this is like 10 years old, right? Out there with the shovel. I mean, at that point, we were new to the valley. We only had lived maybe in the valley, maybe about a year at that point, so the heat and everything coming from Southern California,
trying to get used to it.
So it was hard. So just the work ethic, doing everything, moving dirt, helping to move stuff around the house, digging up tree stumps, picking up dog poop, simple stuff.
The humbling task.
Cutting the yard. I mean, I remember being there and like, hey, go, I need you to cut the yard. I'll do it Saturday, or, I'll do it Sunday. And, getting paid $2 to go cut the yard, and,
Shoot,
so,
you couldn't get a child now to do it for $2, let alone just to do it.
So he always instilled in me that, nothing in life is free. Yeah. Everything comes at a cost. And if you're not going to do it like with your education, do it with hard work, have something to show for, at the end of the day. So whether I got $2 or whether I didn't, it was like, it felt good. It started kind of building my work ethic and, kind of leaving me feeling a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, where my friends would come over and I'd be like, you see all those holes? I dug them. I pulled out all those stumps. And they're looking at me like, you're nuts, man. Like, what are you doing? So stuff like that with my dad. He's still a really great mentor to me. He never oversteps his boundaries in the sense of like trying to tell me what to do in the business, but I mean, we talk every day pretty much. And I have stuff come up and be like, if I ask him, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And he'll give me his opinion, and his final verdict's always like, well, it's up to you at the end of the day, whatever you want to do, me home. So I'm like, all right, but he definitely has been an inspiration in that sense.
Yeah.
Sounds
like it.
Did you come from did you go to school, like college or anything?
I went to college for 1 year, almost a whole year, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But I went to Fresno State for like almost a whole year. I was 17, about half the year, because I graduated when I was 17. And I ended up moving back home. I had a job at home, and, it wasn't the right time in my life to be.
Well, college isn't for everybody.
Yeah,
either. So.
So, so I went for a little bit and then just moved back home, and pretty much within that time frame, I worked at a golf course for a little bit, and then got into construction,
So how were you able to manage from being the worker to the owner? Like that's a big change.
Big leap. Yeah.
A big change. And if you don't have like usually education, or if your dad was a CEO or something like CEO or something like that, was your dad ever like the manager or something? Besides, I know he started the lawn service.
So before he did his lawn service at the golf course that I worked at when I moved back home from college, he was a manager at the golf course. It was a golf course they had back in the day in Woodlake called Sawtooth Golf Course. It was a small golf course. So he was a manager out there. So he had everything in line out there. He dealt with finances. He dealt with, making sure the greens were kept up, dealing with the workers, telling them what to do out there, pretty much of certain things. So watching him do that, kind of, but I mean, I was 19 at the time when I worked there, or almost 19. I was like 18. And so, I wasn't fully engaged in watching him, but you're in the background. You subconsciously see it though. Yeah, you see it going on. And my dad was hustling too, he was like, okay, like if this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to be the best at it. Right. So that was a big part of that I always carry with me as well, is that, if you're going to do something, go hard, go as hard as you can, do it to the best of your ability, and then exceed that. Don't just do it half-ass.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or you just from anything we used to do, he'd tell me sometimes I'd be sitting down while he's working on the car, or, doing basic stuff on our vehicles, and I'd be sitting on my butt. He's like, you can't do anything sitting on your ass, he'd tell me, and I'm just sitting there like, I'm just holding the flashlight. Like, you want me to stand up? What do you want me to do? And so, but
that's old school though, I think,
getting yelled at for holding the flashlight wrong.
Right.
But, I love him to death. He's been a big inspiration watching him go through the struggles and the health issues that he had, in his life. And then I guess kind of during the maintenance stuff, what I didn't talk about yet was that he ended up having a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
Super Bowl Sunday, 2012. Oh. And at that time we were working together. And so we were at about maybe 40 some accounts maybe together that we were doing together and splitting, and through the week, and back then I used to think like, man, this is, starting to build up, and we're building a lot. Building momentum.
Well, you said in the beginning you started with a few,
like 15 or something like that,
and then you built to 40 accounts. Wow.
So we built up to about 40 accounts, and then it was like I was shell shocked. You know what I mean? Just from a Sunday to next day on Monday, I'm by myself now.
Oh gosh.
And it's like,
wait, so it was just you two doing 40 accounts?
It was just us two doing 40 accounts in a week, so you kind of average it out, and it was about, and some days were 10 accounts a day, some were 8,
Gosh, and that's such hard work in this heat in the valley.
Yeah,
oh
definitely.
God.
So it was a definite eye opener to the point where I was out there, and I did it for a few years by myself, like I said before. I actually hired somebody to bring in to come. I had gotten out to, I want to say almost 60 accounts, and I was doing about almost 60 accounts by myself.
Wow.
I mean, you get out of the truck, it's like,
you just move.
Yeah, it's like there's no rest. Eating while you're driving to the next account.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, part of when I had that epiphany was just like, I was killing myself.
Yeah.
And then I'd pick up side jobs, and I'm working Saturday, Sunday out there with my truck lights on the yard, trying to wire valves and put valves together, laying sod by myself, like hauling it, laying it, grading it, and doing all that, So it was a lot of hard work, and I was literally digging my own grave.
So how did you fool somebody to work with you in the beginning? You know what I'm saying? How did you get somebody like, hey, look, man, we ain't gonna take no breaks.
You're gonna eat on the way to the next job.
It's
don't forget your water.
We honestly,
that had to be hard in the beginning to get somebody to.
It is, and I found a guy who had some experience. He was working for another guy part time, and he wanted to make up a couple days out of the week because he didn't have enough work for him. So it was like he already had experience. He already knew the gig pretty much, And once you kind of are doing it and you're used to it, it's not new. Like we are a rare dying breed. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to people who are okay working hard, working hot, working in the heat, working in the cold.
Your guys are amazing though.
Thank you.
Because I be fussing at them too, and they are so sweet.
they better be.
They are. They're so kind and just so patient, and just, because I be fussing about the sprinklers and all that stuff, but you already know all my fusses. But tell us, so you've been in business with your dad, and I know you've given some years here, but how many years together? And then how did you transfer, I guess, because your dad is now retired, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
He's retired now.
So you worked with your dad specifically up until 212 till he had the heart attack?
Yeah, he tried coming back for about 6 months later, and he worked for, maybe 3 months. And then, he's just like, hey, man, like, as much as my heart and my mind wants to be out here, like I physically can't. Yeah. So during that time, I was like, hey, well, just, hop on. At that point, we had bought a big mower. So I was like, just hop on the mower and just help me just cut the yards. I'll edge, I'll blow everything off. I'll pick the piles up. Like, just that's big enough help as it is, Yeah. So, so he... I'm sorry. Where was?
No, I was just wondering because, like, you after 212 when he had his heart attack, you kind of So what you're saying now, you kind of let him ease up on what he was doing.
Yeah.
So how did he finally? How many years before he finally retired, and then you just kind of launched and decided, I'm going to go this way?
Yeah. So it was about right there.
About the right time.
Yeah, about in 2012, probably like March around or close to this time. 2012. But,
and that's when you started dealing with 60
right
accounts
after that. Probably within the next like 8 months, I picked up about that many accounts when I got up to about, like 60 accounts or so.
Okay.
But I guess overall, since from the time I started with him up until 2012, and then even adding now, I want to say we're going on like 17 years, I think.
Okay.
We're in like 17 years.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's pretty good.
That is, especially in landscaping. Like
especially in this area though.
Yeah, because there's so many different companies. There's so, I remember when I was working at Saputo, I was trying to find a side gig to start. And I would, but there's like a pattern of things that people do out here. Like over there was the bounce houses, you know what I'm saying? And then lawn service. And so that's a highly competitive market out here. How did you maintain business in a competitive market and people undercutting and all, like how did you do that?
Yeah. I feel like it was really built up kind of like with what I said. When you build that trust with your customer,
and the quality of work.
And quality of work. As long you do a good job, but most of the people when we're doing their yards, they're not home. Right. They don't want to worry about the gardener stealing something or doing something shady in their yard, no matter what it is, So the competition is always there. It's not going away. And of course you get undercut by people, and I think a part of it was, I used to kind of stress out on that. Like, oh, well, people are, they're going to come in and take my accounts. And then I kind of had to have that mindset, kind of cliche, like the only competition is yourself. If you're doing a good job, whether you raise your rates, whether your client's telling you, hey, this guy approached me, says he could do it for this much, and kind of use humor, and they're like, well, send him my way. I like him to do my yard, on Saturdays, if he's charging that much, but more so like, I don't know what these people do. I don't know what they offer, but I know what we do.
Right.
And if you're okay trusting somebody else at this point where we've built our working relationship, then I'm okay with that. It's not meant for me. And God has a different plan for me.
Absolutely.
See that Jedi mind trick he just did right there? Man, you would learn something.
I was tricked.
So
that's awesome. But that's true. I mean, there's a saying, like you said, if it's meant for you, it'll show up.
Yeah, one door closes, another one open,
absolutely.
or 3 more open, So,
yeah.
And there's been times, where you lose 2-3 accounts and you're kind of like, oh man, we lost these accounts. But everybody has different stuff going in their life. It's not always in the sense of like you didn't do good work or whatever. Maybe, somebody got laid off and they don't have the finances to do it anymore. Yeah. Or, or just, they're going through some personal stuff that we don't know. So it's as much as you do take it personal and everyone's like, what do we do? And, even my guys, if we lose an account here or there, it's like, man, what do we do? It's like literally like the next week I'm getting 3 calls, but we've been blessed enough now to where, in fact, I just got a call the other day and I had to tell the people, I was like, hey, like we're solid booked. Like my guys work.
Oh, that's good.
My
That's
guys
a blessing.
work. Right now I have 3 guys on the maintenance side. We were at 4. We downsized to 3. We had some stuff going on. So I'm like, no, I'm going to keep these 3 guys going right now, you know? And so with those 3 guys, I mean, they pretty much have it all handled, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so they work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. They get their breaks, they get their lunches. You know, I think their ideal hours, they work from 6:30 to 3 in the afternoon, weekends off. But most of the time, you know, they're like, hey, you got any extra work? You got any side work, any cleanups for us and stuff? So I try to help them out as well in that end of things, you know, making sure that they're taken care of just as much as they're taking care of me.
Right.
Because without them on the maintenance side of things, you know, it's hard to trust people.
Absolutely.
Like you said earlier, Jay, right? Like it's like hard. You're white knuckling those reins. You don't want to let them go.
Yeah.
But as you slowly let things go, you start to develop that trust with these guys, you know?
Right.
And then once you see that they are handling business, right, at the end of the day, and, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to take care of you guys. You take care of me. We keep our name out of the mud and everybody's happy at the end of the day, you know? Yeah. And so,
well, and then too, I mean, it's good to have those trust. How I'm just curious how it's good to have that trust with your team, obviously, but winter months, how do you keep those great guys working?
I wish I had a specific answer for that.
Because businesses are challenging, right?
Yeah,
so that must be a challenge that you face when it
because it's less work in the
cooler weather.
Yeah, so in the winter, it's everything's not growing as fast.
Right.
There's also other things that need to be done. You know, that's the time when you're able to get in and make your adjustments, fix sprinklers, and get stuff prepped for spring. You know, obviously rainy days are rainy days. You can't do anything about that.
Right.
And I'd much rather, and the guys kind of agree with me on that. I'm not going to put them out there in the rain, getting soaked and getting sick, you know, because I was treated a certain way, like when I worked construction, to where I always said, you know, like, hey, when I'm in charge and I'm a boss and I'm running stuff on my own, like I'm never gonna. You
learned how not to treat people. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And it goes a long way of how you treat people,
right?
Just even in general, in everyday life, you know, you never know what the next person is going through.
Absolutely.
So you know, to maintain yourself and be like, hey, okay, cool, you know, you're like this with me, but I'm gonna still be me at the end of the day. Yeah. I'm not gonna change for anybody. So in the winter months, they stay busy. They still do, you know, cut the yards, but if there's, you know, not cutting to do, there's spraying, there's sprinklers need to get fixed and all that side of things. And that's just on the maintenance side of the business. I would say what has been over the past probably 3 years, like on the construction side of things for what we do for our installation, whether it's turf, pavers, retaining walls, I go on the things we do. We do splash pads, waterfalls. I mean, all that stuff that goes into construction work in the wintertime, that's when it's the hardest to keep the construction side of the business going. Because in all reality, the holidays hit. Right. And everybody goes like this with their money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody.
That's true.
And we do that. We do that ourselves. Like, I got Christmas coming up, and then you got birthdays, and you know, everybody's traveling, and you know, so usually slow season, we call it slow. It starts usually around like Thanksgiving time through Christmas, first of the year. And then, you know, the way it had been is like, okay, like everyone starts to get their taxes and then they're looking at their yard and everybody starts thinking like, oh man, I want to get this stuff done. Spring comes.
Want it looking nice.
Right. Yeah. So the first, I want to say 2 years on the construction side, you know, we had gotten slow in the winter. So my very first year, I had to lay off the one guy that I had working for me when I first started on the construction side. You know, I was like, hey man, I don't have enough work. I barely have any install work for me. So I was, you know, a month, 2 months, no jobs were coming in. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, but I was managing still. Thank God I still have my maintenance side. So I put a little bit more effort, a little bit more time into being more involved with the maintenance side. Then the next year came up and we had jobs kind of going all the way up until right about Christmas. And then there was like 5 weeks right there. But I managed some stuff in the finance side of things in the business well enough to where I wasn't fully prepared, but I was prepared enough to still keep my guys working.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to lose the guys that I have. In fact, a lot of them right now are the same guys that I have on my construction side right now. So
wow. Okay.
I have 4 guys on the construction side right now. And so I had them, like, hey, I got some stuff at my house that I've been, sitting over here. You know what I mean?
Your honey-do list.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah, absolutely. No, we all got those. So yeah, so not to make it seem that way, but it was stuff on my mind, but definitely stuff that my wife was like,
get it done.
Like, you're making everybody's yard look beautiful. Look at our front yard.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like,
well, they say sometimes, though, like I had a friend who owned a housekeeping business,
right,
and she would do beautiful work, but you go to her house and it was like, my God.
Right. I mean, last thing you want to do at the end of the day when you're off of work is work on your own. But so I kept the guys that winter season busy at my house. We did a full landscape in the front, like river rock, synthetic turf. I was able to even do, because of my underground construction experience. So we even replaced my sewer lateral line that runs out to the road. We fixed my water line that had a leak in it for the water main to the house. Yeah. And so I was super blessed that I was able to bless them through the winter to keep them busy. Now, granted, that doesn't mean around that time I'm like, man, I got to pick up a job, because now, you see some of those finances start, because I mean, it was basically all out of pocket that I was paying. It wasn't something you want to keep your working capital in there for the business side of things. So when stuff picks up, you can say, okay, I can finance this job. Let me go ahead and start doing it, pick up a job and start on it right away, not have to sit there and say, man, I need to take a loan out, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. So we were super blessed. And then before this winter actually hit, I mean, I was already thinking back in July, like, I got to lock up some work for the winter,
Right.
So we did one huge project, and word of mouth referral, we ended up picking up another family member, and they're super good clients. I mean, the most nicest people, like, just really good clients, not even just in the sense of them giving us work, but just really good people, you know? Yeah. So we finished up one job in October, slid right over to the other family members' property. And so that's a project we've been on, for, I think we started like end of October, roughly.
So you're keeping them working.
Yeah. So this winter we have been busy, and then still people wanting work done. They see, like you said, referrals and stuff like that. And then I just recently started doing some marketing. I started working with the marketing team. So, I've seen your little commercial on Instagram. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. I'm like, look at him. Yeah, definitely.
So, Anthony, how do you ensure that, because I mean, you've shared a lot. I mean, when you were saying something like how you fixed that repair at your house, but you learned the knowledge when you were in construction, right? Yeah. I always think everything in life is training and development. There's things that I do in my role that just come up again, and I'm like, that's why I learned that way back when, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you've learned a lot, of course, from your dad, how he's mentored you. How do you ensure that wisdom that was passed down to you from your dad is shared with maybe the next generation or others?
Well, as speaking as far as like for my boys, is that you put a shovel in their hand, and they know what I'm trying to build, and well, except for my little one,
How old are your boys?
I have an 18-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, and I have a 5-year-old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so, it's, 3 boys. And then I've been very blessed. I have another one on the way.
Oh, yay.
Yep, definitely is going to be our first girl. So
there you go.
I'm super excited about that. And I'm ready to just, instead of my hair falling, I'm just going to shave my head.
But a girl will do that. Jay has Three girls.
Gone.
Yeah.
All gone.
But yeah, just putting them out there and letting them start kind of where I started without pushing them too hard, trying to teach them like, hey, nothing, same values that my dad kind of taught me, nothing in life is free.
That work ethic.
Those $100 Nikes, they're not cheap,
Right.
the clothes you want to wear, all that stuff comes into place. So I think just more so connecting with them on a mental level. So that way they kind of understand what the struggles that I've been through, teaching them and being like, hey, like I remember a point in my life, I couldn't even afford to stop in Visalia, and buy my son a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's back in the day. And it's really humbling at the end of the day to look back and to be like, you know what, I'm able to provide for my family. And,
Absolutely.
And even besides that, just continuing, I guess, building that legacy, like what I talked to you about.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, when I'm dead and gone, I'm 6 feet under. Like, all we have to leave behind us is a legacy.
Absolutely.
So I want them to learn, not necessarily, they don't have to learn my trade, but at least learn the values and the morals of where I started and what I came from. So whatever they go into, hopefully they find it through education to say, man, like I see my dad work really hard and put all these years and all this effort into it, to where they feel proud of me, I guess, at the end of the day. But it motivates them because, like there's a saying, like nobody wants to see you do better than them besides your dad.
Right.
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 And so for me, I hold that very close to me where want to teach them everything that I can teach them and
That's
let
beautiful.
them, hopefully eventually one day they have a multi-million-dollar turnkey business, but hey, go get an education in business so that way you can come in and you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's everything's got to line up, or go become a lawyer, and so that way you can be a lawyer for multiple different people, not just for me and my business,
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that.
Are you looking to what's your future hold for you as in business? Are you going to keep just in the business that you're in? Are you going to expand? Are you going to go into a different field? What's the future look like for you?
So we've already cracked the door on a few different little things here.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I know. So we just broke into starting to do swimming pool remodels.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so that's another something we're offering. Eventually here, I've been kind of already studying and doing my homework on that. I plan on getting my what they call C53 because right now I have my C27. So I'm a licensed contractor, landscape contractor here in California. My C53, that would be the ability to build pools without me having to hire a subcontractor. So right now I can sub out swimming pool work. I can sub out like the remodel stuff, certain things of the remodels. I can subcontract that work out. But, I guess for me, a goal is to be able to acquire another license, and the next one I'm hoping is my swimming pool license to do builds. But I wanted to start doing basically remodels because I wasn't educated enough in that field. Basics. I mean, I can clean out a filter and, I can figure out which lines, what's the return line, what's the suction line, like all these different things. But I wanted to educate myself. So we broke into pool remodels first so I could better educate myself instead of trying to sell something and say, oh, we can build pools. And now I'm just sitting back and I got to let go of the reins again and trust a pool builder to come in and basically you're just believing whatever they're telling you.
Right.
So, to get my swimming pool, my contractor's license to build swimming pools, and then to get into also obtain, because we're able to do concrete now, just not commercial concrete. So we can't do like for like city of Visalia, city of Tulare.
But can you do, like, let's say if I owned a commercial building and I wanted my concrete done, you can't do that?
We can, as long as it's not in the easement or it's something like where recently I put out a a bid to do like trash can enclosures. Well, trash can enclosures have certain specs that they need to be approved plans through the city.
Yeah.
So certain things like that. So eventually I plan on wanting to get my concrete license for that, because along with that, then you can pour pads for houses and that kind of stuff. And then as well as just investment stuff, you know, I've been educating myself for the past probably 3 years on doing some investment work. I've worked with a couple of my friends who got into kind of like flipping homes or Airbnb-ing it. Yeah. And I've kind of made some investments with them. Like, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do some, do some work for you, you know, and then whenever the house sells, you know, I get my cut at the end of the day. Right. So investments of that sort, as well as I like to eventually get into but more on the commercial side of things. So the commercial building of like, they have lots, right? Lots are for sale. You go in, you build a commercial property, and then now you're the owner, but then you just rent these properties out to people, because it seems like that to me is more enticing than just homes.
Developing,
developing. And that kind of goes right back to my construction side of things, where I have the I guess, a little bit more education in the side of what goes into it. Yeah. So,
So your business is just going to keep building and building and building. Good for you, Anthony.
That's the direction we want to go.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you stopped by and hung out with us and chatted. Tell our listeners where they can find you.
You can find us on Instagram. It's at Belis Landscape. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Same thing, Belis Landscape. We are not on Twitter or anything like that. We don't.
Does anybody go on Twitter anymore?
We don't tweet. And then also,
you're on Twitter.
No, it's the hottest thing. I'm not on it, but it's the hottest thing right now. Yeah, it's X now. It's not Twitter.
X. Oh, that's right. That's right.
So you can find us on social media. My link to my website is on our Instagram page. Okay. So you could get in there. You can check out our website and see kind of some of the work we do. I urge everyone to follow us on Instagram just to get ideas, even if you don't want to use us, and, you know, educate yourself. Because even with clients or potential clients, I tell them all the time, hey, even if you don't go with us, just educate yourself. Because
I like when you do those little little. What do you call those, snippets or whatever?
The reels.
There you go, the reels. Don't laugh at me. But I like when you do that because it's educational. You know? Yeah,
absolutely. And before we finish up here,
nice!
I brought you guys some cool hats. So I don't know, however you guys want to do it. Maybe
absolutely
shoot some out.
I'll let Jay pick first.
Shoot. You guys can pick a couple. And
those are nice.
Maybe you guys could find a couple lucky listeners to shoot them out to.
We can do a giveaway. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, before we go though, the young Anthony out there, that's not looking too bright, future not looking too bright. You know, he didn't kind of gave up, doesn't have the means. Maybe his parents ain't educated. Yeah. What word of advice would you have for that person?
Just put in the hard work. Don't be afraid to fail. You know, don't be afraid to try something new. You know, don't give up. Me, you know, as far as everything I do surrounds God. You know, you know, personally, I put my trust in God, you know, let go of the wheel, give it to him, let him handle everything. Trust your instincts, go with your gut on things, and just put in the work. I mean, you can't live a shelf life at the end of the day.
There you go.
Anything that sits on the shelf collects dust and gets thrown out. So you got to stay moving. Don't be stagnant. You know, we all know what stagnant water smells like at the end of the day.
It stinks.
So don't be part of that. But yeah, just work hard. Try to self-motivate yourself and give yourself grace. Give yourself grace.
That's one of our favorites. On our Monday morning podcast, we always encourage our audience to give yourself grace. So important.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, at the end of the day, don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah. There is, I mean, again, it's kind of cliche, like, we don't lose, we learn, you know? So
Absolutely.
I want to give a shout out though, because I didn't talk enough, I feel like, about my construction side of my crew.
You got some great guys.
My foreman Marcos is amazing. The workers that I have, Rodrigo, Rudy, Martin, those guys, they are amazing.
Shout out to them for
Yeah,
helping to contribute to the legacy,
Yeah,
man.
I mean,
y'all building something great.
They're everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we do, custom paver work that blows the socks off of people when they see our work
Yeah.
and they see what we're offering, but those guys really work hard. And I just want to say too that, like, more so than just acquiring financial gain off of your business, it is a super blessing to be the responsible party to be able to bless others. Right. And by bless others, I mean, I'm responsible for 8 other men that work for me.
Right.
That have families.
And
to
their
support.
families
Yep.
rely on the business.
Yes.
And if I just let things go at the end of the day and I take a day off and I don't feel like doing it, it doesn't just affect me. So it's a blessing to be able to bless others. And I hope that we continue to grow,
I could see it, man. I could see it. You got the heart.
I should say we are going to grow more so.
Definitely.
But I do things, in baby steps. Sometimes people say, oh, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And it's like, I have my game plan and I want to move at a certain pace.
Right.
I don't need to move fast.
Yeah.
Right.
I need to be consistent.
There you
And
go.
once you're consistent, that's when businesses turn from something small into something big.
Yeah.
Look what you've built, with that.
So I'm proud of myself,
You should be, absolutely.
And, I got a great support team at home, my wife, my kids, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sisters, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, like my whole family, they really do truly support everything that I do. And they've seen the struggles that I've gone through and the mental challenges and physical challenges, and different stuff that's occurred in my life. So I'm very blessed to have an amazing support system behind me. And I continue to want to just get better, be better than yesterday. Where I look back, it's like, I definitely am not where I was, but I'm not where I want to be.
There
yet.
you go.
Right.
So
There you go.
In 5 years, where will you be business wise?
man,
We want to market right here. That's what we can look back at this time right here.
There you go.
business wise,
Yeah.
I plan to be a multi-million-dollar company. I plan to be a multi-million-dollar company.
Absolutely.
And I think we will be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably about 30 employees. And then I will have different divisions. And also hopefully I will be anywhere I want to go golf. I can just get in my Learjet.
There you go.
Fly there and go and play some golf and be home by dinner, go down south, catch a Rams game. I'm a Rams fan. So
there you go.
I'm going to lose some followers for that one. But
Yeah, we probably should stop talking. No, I'm kidding.
But no, I want to definitely be something where people look at me at the end of the day and they're like, wow, if
You
this
did that.
if this guy can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sky's the limit,
That's
Hey,
beautiful.
Any two agree?
Yeah.
There it
be
is.
done, you know
It'll
what I'm
be
saying?
done.
That's dope, man.
You spoke that out there, man.
Yeah, that's great.
It's going to show up for you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad that we finally had time to sit with you and to share with our listeners your story. Make sure you follow Anthony on social media.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony, from the bottom of our heart. Jay, take us away.
We learned a lot from you, from your coming up to perseverance. I seen loyalty, to your that's big nowadays. You know what I mean? It's like
His crew. Yeah.
you was there. Well, first you was there for your dad.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You seen that, you had his back. And then it's like that was went over to your crew. With you, it seems like y'all have a good brotherhood, and that's hard to find nowadays, man.
Yeah.
In this climate and this time,
It's not easy.
But this is the thing, though. It's going to be a blessing towards them too, because those are your day ones.
Yeah.
So when it does hit that millionaire mark,
Yeah.
Guess who's going to be the CEO? Guess who's going to be the people in charge is going to be the ones, your day ones.
Your day ones.
So, people got to get over this mentality of just always wanting to be the boss. It's like if you got a good leader, and I can tell that you're a great leader, you know what I'm saying? Roll with that person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Help him grow.
Yeah.
You know, and then the sky's the limit, man.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the
I'm
compliment.
excited for you, man.
Yeah, me too, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes,
Thank you everybody
definitely.
for watching.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been a blessing to be on the show. I'm super excited. Hopefully you guys get me back on here.
Sure.
For sure, man. Anytime, man.
Yeah.
Be sending you guys some more merchandise.
Anytime,
Yeah.
yes. That'd be
For
great,
sure.
man.
Run some specials.
Yeah.
And try and get some more people to.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, well, thank y'all for joining us today. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have a blessed one. Peace.